Alright, so today we have a 2014 Silverado. We're going to be doing the factory backup tailgate handle camera for this vehicle. This is the factory non-camera handle that comes on some of the vehicles. We're going to actually be adding our factory style camera to this truck. I'm going to bring you over to the bench and show you our kit and exactly what it ships with and kind of go over a few things before we get started. Alright, so first thing first on the Silverado, we need to get this guy off. A lot of these trucks come with these plastic bed liners from the factory. So there's T15 Torx kind of screws all throughout the whole tailgate. We're just going to use our T15 and start popping them off. Once we get that guy out of our way, if you notice behind it, there's going to be this little knockout plate. Once you get your screws out, obviously this just comes off. Slide that in the bed. And there's going to be a couple of 10mm bolts holding this guy on here, one on each side. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is grab my 10. These guys here have to be released, and then I'll show you how to get the actual tailgate handle cam off. Alright, so with the 10mm, basically, I'm just going to take out these two screws here, one on each side, these two bolts. Now these guys here actually have plastic little retainers. Basically you just kind of flick them off there and get the bars out of the way, just like so. We're going to remove the two tins, holding that in. And then from there, just kind of, there's a locking tab on the bottom here on both sides. We're just going to free that guy up and do that number, and the actual old assembly is out. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the new one, and we're going to be using our fish tape here to actually fish the wire through the tailgate. I'm going to grab our new handle and I'll come back and show you that. Alright, so the only thing we really need to transfer from the old tailgate handle assembly to the new one is the lock mechanism that actually allows you to lock the tailgate. In order to do that, I'm just going to get a pick or something in here, release this mechanism that actually holds that in place. Alright, so I'm getting ready to actually install the new tailgate handle with the camera into the tailgate now. So basically you're just going to want to pull your wire for the actual power and all through the tailgate. The top of it comes in first, like so. And there's a couple of alignment pins here. Once you get them to that point, click it in. And the two pieces earlier that actually held it there, that'll actually hold it for you to get your 10mm back in there. Be careful going back in with these tins using an impact or something. This is all just plastic, and if you start ratcheting down on these bolts, you're going to destroy your new tailgate handle camera. So just barely tighten them up there. Obviously from this point we're just going to put these locking little factory terminals back on here. Pin goes in and it just clips around it. From that point, I'm going to go ahead and give a actual ratchet and hand snug these by hand instead of the drill, and attach this wire to the fish tape and pull it through the tailgate. Alright, so basically what we have here is just a little improvised fish tape we've made up out of some zip ties. We're going to tape one end of the camera power plug to this guy. It just eases in pushing it through the tailgate here. On the 14 trucks now, most of these holes are already drilled right dead center of the tailgate. You feel your hand around, and then there's actually one that lines up with it in the actual bed of the truck here. So what I'm going to do is just push this wire through, kind of guiding it with my hand, like so. And from that point we're going to shoot it through the hole in the actual bed and down kind of near the spare tire up underneath there. So I'm going to go ahead up under the truck and grab that and start pulling this wire through the tailgate, and be back here to show you the actual connections back here. Alright, so back here in the Silverado, as you can see, I've already put the remaining pieces back on the tailgate that we removed earlier to get the camera handle installed. All of the T15 screws, I just went ahead and reinstalled all of these. So at this point you can now see this is the new tailgate handle camera. Still on our fish tape. It's actually right up under the truck here, so as you can see, just to the bumper here, I've got my wire already pulled out and exited out of the tailgate assembly itself. From this point, everything is plug and play pretty much. I'm going to go ahead and plug in the harnessing, and we're going to route it obviously over and with the other cabling on the bottom side of the truck all the way up to the driver door and exit into the cab. So I'm going to go ahead and run my wire. I'll kind of come back here and show you how I ran it here in just a second and give you some pointers. Alright, so back here in the Silverado, I have the wire ran completely from the back of the truck all the way up to the front. Now what I typically do, let me just kind of get under here and show you so you have an idea more or less how this kind of goes. I typically, basically, there's a fatter kind of harness that runs along the underside of the truck. Basically, I grab that guy with some zip ties and run the wire all the way from the back all the way up to the front. So basically staying along that black thick harness all the way until you kind of lose it right about the rear wheel, and then at that point I shoot up and over and kind of stay on top of the frame there and run it along to the back. On the inside of the frame rail there's some other wires and stuff you can actually grab onto and just run it all the way back to the back of the truck. You just basically want to make sure that you're not having this wire dangling, or that it can get, you know, hung or caught on anything, or that you're attaching it to stuff that moves like the parking brake or any of that good stuff. You don't want to be attaching it to that. Once you get up to the front here, right almost dead center under the driver's door area, there is a rubber little grommet boot where the emergency brake cable actually comes out of. I actually cut a little slit with a razor knife, and I just fished the wire for the camera up and into that factory grommet where the wire actually goes for the emergency brake, where the cable actually runs. You get the light in here so you can kind of see it a little better. Basically, that's what I do there. Just come right out of that rubber grommet, and then you're all rubber all the way surrounding that wire. There's nothing that can pinch or chafe it or cut it from wearing over time with movement. From this point, I've just basically, to get to that guy, basically just took the driver little door seal piece off and then just lifted the carpet right up and back. I'm going to go ahead and run this wire along with this cable all the way up and kind of under the dash, and we're going to show you the proper connections for power and ground and how to get the actual reverse camera video feed over to the passenger side of the truck where we're going to plug it in at. So I'll be right back here in a second to show you that. Alright, so here in the driver's side, I've already got the wires obviously ran up to the floor. We're now working on the actual power connections for the camera. So earlier in the unboxing, I showed you this guy here that's going to be in the kit if you have the larger screen in the truck. Basically, this is just a timered relay. We already shipped these out set up so that when you shift back from reverse to drive, it has a little bit of a software delay from GM. There's nothing we can do about that. This retains power to the camera for approximately 15 to 20 seconds and avoids any error messages or anything coming up on screen. It's going to be labeled exactly how to hook it up on the actual relay, but I'm going to go ahead and kind of give you a rundown. The blue wire is actually going to go on to this yellow and purple. So what I do is typically cut all this fabric tape off of this plug, and then there's going to be a purple and yellow wire in the bottom left corner back there. That guy right there, you're going to use a supplied T-tap and go onto the blue wire of the relay with that. The white wire is actually going to run under here. This is the BCM. This is right up under the dash just to the left of the OBD port. We're going to go to the brown plug, pin 26. It's going to be this blue with a brown traced wire. The white is actually hooking up using the supplied T-tap right to the blue and brown wire in pin number 26, bottom, it's like the bottom right corner once you take it out of the BCM. The black wire obviously is just our ground. I typically run it up here and ground it right behind this guy here just with a self-tapper that's provided. And the yellow is what we're actually using to power our camera. So this yellow wire is going to feed power to the camera harness. Basically that's all of the power connections. I'm going to go ahead and run the video feed over behind the glove box, and I'm going to come back and show you how to hook up the actual video input to the module. Alright, so here in this Silverado, this is a later model 14, so this is going to have a little bit probably different plug maybe than yours, or it might be the same. Inputting the video feed into the factory moduling for our backup camera, you're going to need to be on pin number 5 and 6. And if you unplug the gray plug from the HMI, this is going to be your HMI up here. We're going to unplug the gray plug from the HMI. The actual face of it's going to look like this on some models. This one, if you can notice, already has wires in pin number 5 and 6, which is these top corner. The gray with the yellow trace and the white with blue. They're already populated in this particular vehicle. So on the unboxing video a little bit ago on the workbench, we showed you guys the provided pigtail that'll actually be coming with this to input the video in for the video signal. As you can notice, this one is already terminated and it tells you where to go, pin 5, pin 6. Since there are already wires in pin 5 and 6, you do not need those terminals. What we're going to do is just cut those off and strip back the wire on the actual factory plug. We're going to strip this wire back just ever so much there and solder on to these connections. Instead of cutting wires and plucking them and trying to get them out of there, we're just going to solder right onto them. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my harness here that was shipped in the box. Cut these factory terminals off of the little input harness that was given to you. And we're going to strip it back and solder onto this guy. Now, if you do need to insert them in there, depending on which style plug you have, this one, as you notice, has a green locking connector that basically has, on this side here, you have to release it using a pick. You're going to push down on these 2 tabs here and then kind of slide it over and up and off. Certain vehicles use different style connectors. Some of them have a white one that's actually going to release forward. Some of them have this green one that come off. So depending on your plug, you're going to have to get creative and unlock this plug before you can insert any pins into it. This is a locking mechanism that actually locks the pins in there tight. So I'm going to go ahead and get started crimping and soldering the wire that we're going to input the video feed into the module with. And I'll be back here once it's all taped back up and plug everything back in and show you the final outcome on how this works. Alright, so here in the Silverado, we've already soldered on our camera pigtail connections to the gray plug like I was just discussing before, basically onto pins 5 and 6 there. Basically, now that I've soldered all those on and taped everything up, I'm just going to go ahead and plug this guy back into its proper home. And then from that point, all we have now is our 2 video feeds. This was a short bed truck and the wire was actually just perfect enough to get up to the front. Now, if you have a long bed, you may need to use the supplied RCA extension that we give to you guys. There'll be a factory, like a female to female connector to plug into here. And then you can use that to plug into the little RCA lead and then plug it into the module. However, this one was a short bed and was just plenty long. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in our video feed and be back here once I tape all this up nice and get the wires up, put the glove box back in and reassemble everything, and I'll show you guys the final outcome of the camera quality and the image on screen. Alright, so we're back here in the Silverado. This is the one we actually added the MyLink tailgate handle camera system to. I'm going to go to reverse here and just show you on screen the image quality. So that's with the vehicle in reverse. As you can see, this is pretty much factory. It's got the factory turning guidelines, just like if you had to purchase the vehicle with the camera from the factory. And the resolution is actually very great. So that's the actual image. And with our system, as you can see, when you go back to drive, it stays on there until it times out. No error messages, nothing like that, like from some of our other competitors. So this is it. Go to reverse, it just activates itself. Obviously, it's factory as can be. For more info, call the number at the end of the video. Thanks for watching.